Hello, Chris from Channel X TV here. Delighted to be joined today by Chris Griffin from Secret Sales, where there's been a whole load of stuff going on, from investments to acquisitions to new personnel. But I also want to get into yeah, what Secret Sales can do for brands and retailers to help them retain as much value in goods that they've already paid for, but perhaps haven't sold yet. So welcome, Chris. How are you?
Yeah, good to see you, Chris. Really well, thank you. I mean, obviously we're well in the midst of peak trading now. Actually, things are going really well, so we're very, very happy. Yeah, I think it's going to be a good year, but actually, I think it's going to be a good peak as things are shaping up.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have been holding back before they buy their Christmas presents this year. So I think there's a lot of pent-up demand that's about to hit us as we come closer to Black Friday and Christmas. But
Yeah.
Chris, I want to go back 6 months to May, when you had an influx of cash into the business. You had, I think it was 10 million of funding that came from various investors.
Yeah, 10 million.
Why did you take that funding, and what was the intention?
Yeah, really, very simple, really. In that we've seen massive changes in retail in the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, we've seen massive changes in 20 years, but in the last 3 or 4 years, and in the sector that we operate within discount, we're seeing a massive change strategically across brands and retailers where they need to make clearance profitable. And I'm sure we'll talk about that more in a minute. But ultimately, we've also seen moves away from the old school flash sales models that Secret Sales used to be. Across Europe, basically, people are expecting way more. The consumers are expecting way more. Better services, better level of product, better pricing, better everything. And so with everything that's going on in the market, and it is a tough market at the moment with the living wage crisis, etc., we raised the money because we saw it as the perfect time for us to expand our international proposition by both investing more money organically, but also by basically having an increased war chest, let's call it, to purchase businesses that potentially were struggling with the changes in the last 3 or 4 years, but actually were perfect targets for us to basically acquire and expand rapidly into other European territories.
And I think that's really interesting, because I understand you now acquired in Spain and more recently in Ireland. So tell us what's going on in those 2 territories.
Yeah, I mean, look, Spain was the first company that we acquired through Griffin, which was again a reasonably good-sized flash sales business in Spain, doing fashion exactly the same as Secret Sales was 10 years ago before we acquired Secret Sales and turned it into a marketplace. And again, because of the aforementioned, they weren't growing. In fact, they were shrinking, in fairness, but still a sizable company. So it was just a natural target for us to acquire. Spain's a good market for us. We see that as a massive growth market, both in terms of brands that are within Spain being exported to the wider Europe, but also European, UK brands basically selling into Spain. So we purchased the company and launched the site 3 weeks ago, I think. The contrast to that was that with Ireland, we saw that there was a natural affinity already with the secretsales.com brand. People were shopping on the .com, but we felt we wanted to give a more tailored proposition to the Irish basically consumers, and also basically Irish brands and retailers to a certain degree. And so that was very much an organic part where we invested money and basically are looking to grow the proposition organically. So for us, the 2 questions dovetail really, in that the money was basically for us to be able to grow organically in new territories and existing, but also to acquire in ones that we could see there's opportunities to grow even quicker. So yeah, it's been hugely exciting, and that's, there's lots more to come of that. There'll be lots of news over the next 6 months of a variety of territories where we are launching in via M&A.
Well, we'll be watching out for that. And I think the big question as you get into more territories that brands and retailers are going to be asking is, Is it, for instance, going to be Spanish retailers selling to the UK, or is it going to be UK brands selling to Spain? How much crossover is there? And obviously that can effectively lead all the way back up to their supply chain, that if they've predominantly only sold in the UK, do they need to start at manufacturing, put European sizing, for example, on garments, so that potentially if it does go to off-price selling in Spain on secret sales, that they're set up with the right sizes?
Yeah, look, it's I mean, our proposition is very much a case of anybody, all the brands that we deal with, all the retailers we deal with can obviously sell in a single market, because we're a digital marketplace, which means we have their stock feeds as long as they have the logistics capabilities. Albeit though, we also have the logistics capabilities for returns and also basically consolidating deliveries if they don't. So we're very much designed to be a solution for the industry for non-full price inventory. But you know, I think if you look at Spain as a great example, we launched with about 400 million of inventory that was based out of basically that wasn't based in Spain, was either based in mainland Europe or in the UK through our existing sellers. Because you know, one of the greatest things about the proposition when we designed it and what we're executing against is brands want an international solution for non-full price that they can make money out of, while protecting their brand equity and acquiring new customers. And you know, sticking to the point of international expansion and inventory, the reality of it is it's better for a brand and a retailer to basically sell those pots of inventory across multiple territories rather than injecting too much non-full price inventory into a single territory. And so, you know, the economic benefits probably aren't as great for a UK brand to sell in Spain, albeit they're still making money. But the reality of it is that brands should be and are sensitive to make sure that they're not just selling basically all their non-full price in one place and ultimately then potentially hurting their full price sales. And again, that's one of the reasons why we've designed the proposition, which I know we'll go on and talk about more about, but it's very much around solving the problem that all the brands and all the retailers know they have around non-full price, and basically not just solving the problems, but actually turning it into a long-term sustainable solution for them.
So this is really interesting, Chris, but what I really want to dig into is how the proposition works for brands and retailers. Now, we all know that possibly the worst thing that can happen to clothing is that it ends up in a hugely discounted discount store. And I am going to name names. I've bought shirts in places like TK Maxx for pennies on the pound before, and that's potentially the worst situation for a brand. The best situation is obviously to sell it at full price when it's in season. But where do you sit in the middle? How can you help brands retain as much value as possible?
Yeah, look, it's at the core, the DNA of why we exist, is that we're integrated into a brand's stock file for the brands to choose when and how and what price they sell their product for us. So most, if not all of our brands use us at a variety of stages during the product life cycle. We have brands that use us where they are forecasting they will not sell through on current season and want a route that basically is still brand basically protective, that they can sell current season to basically make sure that they sell through, but also sell it earlier in its life cycle. So it's not at 70 or 80% off, or even, you know, the TK Maxx's when it's on the floor and they've sold it at not even recovering costs, where they can sell that product through a partner, a genuine partner, and make money. So that's that's the sort of early stages of our relationship, where they're discounting 20%, 25% on a small amount of current season because they can see that their run rates will leave them. So, but they get more money because it's current season rather than waiting to the end. Now, some people choose not to do that, or some people do that a little bit. And so as we get through and we get to the end of season, of course, the discounts get increases. But what we do as a business, we work with them. We work with our partners, our brands and retailers, to really trade the stock. So the one thing that's unique about us as a marketplace is that we don't just take the product feed and see if it sells. Our largest unit inside our business is our trading and merchandising team, run by Fiona Lay, who was ex-Debenhams. Fiona's amazing. Her team's amazing. What they're doing all the time is using our systems to basically work out what's selling, what we can sell, and what we can sell more of. And we're working with our brands to work out what they've got too much of and whether we can fill that requirement. And so ultimately, what we find is that across basically from the one end where it's out of season to basically end of season to current season, is that by taking that approach and truly trading with them, working with them on a week-to-week basis, almost like as a small sub-department within their business, that the actual average discount that they take across the life cycle of that product is massively less. So we generally see that if you were to look at, I won't use TK because I don't think it's a good example, because it would be easy to tell you that you'd make thousands of % more profit for us, because frankly, most of our brands and retailers know that. But even looking at other discount channels, on average, basically, because of the approach that we take and the amount of time and resource that we put into being a partner, brands make hundreds of % more profit from us through non-full price than they would through selling through other third parties, because we're connected digitally. We give them the tools to trade in the minute, in the hour, rather than, and we then give basically our plans where we trade stock with them as if we're sat within their trading teams, albeit it's all ran from them. They control their pricing, etc. And brands love that. And then what we do on top of that is that one of the great things about non-full price that I think people don't talk about enough is non-full price is great for acquiring customers, but if you start selling it through a third party, you lose that ability. And so what we do as we need as a partner is we put the added benefit in that our brands and retailers, basically, we share the customer data through a GDPR compliant basically system that basically gives them back new customers while making money. And all the time, they're not having to sell it on their own platform and erode their full price sales. So it's this halo effect around the commerciality of how we operate that is one of the key linchpins of why people are so keen to work with us and why we've got, over 2,500 brands live on the platform now.
And that's really interesting. And I'm looking back at the last 2 years and thinking, last year we had a heat wave that ran on forever, and then this year, everyone said it's been hot this year, but it's been raining for weeks, as long as I can tell. And combine that with the cost of living crisis, and I can see why businesses are struggling on getting stock profiles right, that they may be forecast a year, 2 years before.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the late heat wave that we saw, we were 70% like for like on summer inventory in October.
Wow.
October. Because the weather was nice in September and October, and the thing about it is that, rather than these companies having to, our brands and retailers going, well, hold it a minute, we're now launching winter, they're focused on the new range, as they should be, because their businesses should be selling predominantly full price stock. That's exactly as it should be. They should be able to make money at a non-full price. And with us, basically, we're fulfilling that demand. Basically, it wasn't the best summer, so there was a lot of inventory around, but also we're trading that inventory to get the maximum price for them. I think one of the things that I come from a full price background, as you know, and then went into technology. But one of the things that sort of exasperated me when I was brand side was that everyone who wanted my inventory didn't care about me. They didn't care about me at all, by and large. What they cared about is buying it as cheaply as possible from me to make as much money for themselves, right? And that's okay, because that's their business model. It's not a secret. My job is to make brands and retailers as much money as possible and protect their brands and create new customers. And on that basis, they'll grow long-term international strategic relationships so that then I can make money on the small margin that we take. And so we're very much a margin-based business where we need to have deep, meaningful relationships for it to work. But we solve the problem because of those deep, meaningful relationships, rather than just going, can you give us basically the cheapest possible price so we can make some money? Because that wasn't a problem that needed solving. TK Maxx will buy all your inventory, but you'll lose money on it. What you do with us is make money and protect brand.
So I do want to touch on a touchy subject for the fashion industry, which is sustainability.
Yeah.
What can you do to help brands become more sustainable? And I'm guessing that the answer is, for those that want to buy pre-loved, but that's not the business that manufacturers are in. They want to manufacture product, but how can they kind of almost do you out of a job by tailoring their supply chain so that they don't have this excess stock. Will that ever be possible, or is that a pipe dream, or is there always going to be this off-price inventory that needs to be shifted?
Unless consumers basically change beyond recognition, the reality of it is what we're doing in the fashion industry is, in a very smart, analytical way, guessing what people are going to buy. Right? If you wanted to dumb it right down, it's very good. There's some people who are very good at working out what they want people will buy, but they will always get it a percentage wrong, whether it's basically the colors, the sizes, the styles, etc. So there will always be non-full price, and that's why it's so important that actually the brands have a sustainable, and retailers have a sustainable non-full price strategy for excess inventory, because the reality is, not only is, when I say sustainable, I talk about it from 2 points. I'll answer your question first on the more classic one, which is the ecological benefits of the ecological side of basically sustainable and the impact within fashion. And I think we play a reasonable sized part in that, firstly, we're taking inventory that potentially would end up going into landfill. That's the easy answer to the question. But actually, there's a big gap between full price and landfill. What we do is basically we sell it to people who are very much looking for non-full price. It is our market. We're exclusively non-full price. Who basically also, what we find with our customers is are increasingly looking at non-full price as an alternative to resale. Now, it may not be immediately obvious why that will be, but having done basically hundreds of surveys with customers to go, well, you know, what is it you're trying to achieve from buying non-full price? Of course, it's price. Resale is also price, by the way. But actually, what they're looking at is this connection between fast fashion and cheap garments that end up in landfill. It's an indirect consequence, which I believe is actually bigger than basically the brand side of, oh, well, it's end of season, didn't sell, it's going into landfill because it's gone in and out of the warehouse 3 times. Is that if people are buying products and going, I'm not going to buy an item that will last me 3, 4, 5 wears. I'm going to spend through non-full price, let's just say £30 on a hoodie, let's say, that would have been 60, 70 pounds new. But that's good quality. That'll last you a year, 2 years. So you're not buying these cheap items that you end up multiple buying. And also it's commercially savvy. But sticking to the ecological point, the reality is they've bought a product for £30 that will last them several times longer than basically fast fashion products. It's irrefutable. But also they can sell at the end of it. And we see this a lot, especially with the slightly younger demographic, but getting older into the 30s, is that they're paying £30 in preference to buy non-full price, in preference to buying basically pre-loved, of the same genre, knowing that they can wear it for a whole year and sell it for the pre-loved price, which in general is 50, 60% of what they paid for it. And so the life cycle of that product is massively extended. The consumer ends up with more money and actually has done a good thing in that the unintended consequences, they've not bought product that goes in the bin. And do you know what? How this plays out is probably for smarter people than me to work out. But you look at it from a very top level point of view and go, if people aren't buying product that goes in the bin and they're basically buying product that lasts years, not weeks, maybe that's the big win.
And I think the other thing is as well, the aspirational customer that can't afford the full price but buys something off price is potentially then a lifetime customer when their earnings do go up.
100%. You follow them through the value chain. I mean, I think that's a known fact for years, and as from the luxury industry right down to basically the middle market, etc. All brands, you know, everyone wants to acquire those loyal customers at the right time and take them on that journey. So yeah, definitely, and that's where I think that that what's happened very much since COVID, it was always there, but I think that non-full price has become a top table conversation around strategy now, rather than it used to be. And I've sat in boardrooms, I've been in boardrooms, I've been on boards where non-full price has been about what you've got left and who we're going to sell it to. I can remember those times. I was part of the decision making in some places. And actually now it's about what can we use non-full price for to make money, acquire new customers, basically be sustainable, be part of a more complete ecosystem within fashion. And non-full price is a massive part of that. And then once you've solved that problem, you're also enhancing your full price proposition to be able to basically not erode the margins you're making on full price to supplement another part of your business that's you're throwing money away because it's the tail. You've got a complete strategy. And we've seen that in hundreds of boardrooms, that strategy evolving on its own inside those boardrooms without our help, where people are going, this is a huge part of our business that needs to be a complete strategy. And it just so happened that we were very, very well timed in that we were thinking the same to want to solve that problem for brands and retailers, and hence why we've grown so much in the last 4 years.
Well, I think that's a good thing to look forward to. I'm sure we'll be speaking again in the new year, perhaps with more acquisitions or more country expansions. But yep. Chris, I want to thank you so much for your time. Good luck for Q4, and we'll speak again in the new year.
Yeah, definitely. Good to see you again, Chris. Let's try and grab a beer for Christmas.
Great. Thank you.
Take care.